Welcome to Holistic Emails, Email and More, a Q&A with. Every 2 weeks, we showcase a different topic and have different expert panelists join us. It's not rehearsed, and you guys, the live audience, get to ask us your burning questions about the topic at hand. I'm Adiola Sol, hi, Senior Consultant at Holistic Email, and I'm your host and moderator for Email and More. With me today, I have Kath Pay, CEO of Holistic Email. Yeah, there she is. I've got Skip Fedora, Fractional CMO. Oh, there he is. And Nancy Weaver, Digital Marketing of LexisNexis. Oh, I love how you guys just introduce yourself on cue. Before I get into it, I do want Skip to break down what a fractional CMO is. For those that do not know, I think it's a cool job title. I hope to one day become a fractional CMO. So for those who are not aware, Skip, please give us a little intro into what you do.
Thanks, Adiola. So a fractional CMO fractional is just a rebrand for part-time.
Okay.
So what's a CMO do? The first thing they do when they get into a new business, rebrand. So I just rebranded the whole job title. I'm not a consultant because consultants tend to come in, do the project, and then go on to the next project. Mm-hmm. I'm not a freelancer because freelancers tend to be a little bit more craft-based. So they come in, they answer a brief, mm-hmm. and then they move on. And in the UK, we have this notion of a contract employee because things like maternity cover. So they come in and they do the job for a specific length of time. Yeah. But they're really there to be a safe pair of hands to not, press the strategy forward or really do much. It's just execute on the strategy that for the contract they're covering for. Yeah. So I don't do any of those three things. I'm a fractional CMO, so I'm part of the team. The only difference is I just don't turn up to work 5 days a week. Well, I don't turn up to work for you 5 days a week. I work 5 days a week, just not for you.
I love it. We all need to aspire to be fractional CMOs. I love that.
Well, it's actually, I got into this about a year and 3-4 months ago. And at the time, it seemed like a crazy idea. Now, it makes perfect sense. For a lot of companies, they can't afford a CMO full time, but they still need strategic marketing help coming out of the pandemic, coming out of lockdown. And a fractional makes perfect sense. And funny enough, you see it in other parts of the business. You see it in CFOs a lot. A lot of businesses don't need a full-time CFO, so they get a fractional one. Yeah,
I love it. And this just leads us really nicely into our topic today. So we're going to be discussing email metrics. And whilst you guys that are watching us live are typing your questions away, and please feel free to ask whatever question you may have. There is no silly question, and our expert panelists are well adapted to answer your questions. I'm going to kick off the webinar now with this one. If you could pick only one metric to determine the success of an email, which would you pick and why? And this is open to the floor, so whoever wants to jump in, feel free.
Wow, you went.
I know.
Right there.
You don't really build up to things, do you? You go right for the end.
I just go straight for the jugular, That's
okay.
What I like to do. Just hit hard. One metric. You have to choose one. You have to choose your favorite guy. Who is it going to be?
So I'm just about to get my book published, right, in October, and I've got a chapter on metrics, and I start off with it's like the metric you have to measure.
Okay. Do we need a drum roll? Do you want a drum roll?
I'll tell you at the end. And then you have to read all through the chapter until you get to the very end.
Oh my gosh! So you tease them.
I know, teasing. But Nancy, I think you've got something to say on this, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I follow your lead on a couple of things. For me, the one metric is revenue. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer to me. You can look at all of the other things to determine what is speaking to your audience, but ultimately at the end of the whole process is, did you make profit off of what you did? That's the penultimate metric. It's hard to measure. I mean, I know that we don't have that completely mapped out. It's not an easy one because we're talking about, everybody has disparate systems and everybody has this connectivity issue and that connectivity issue. Difficult to measure, but that's where I try to get to at the end of every email is what profit did we make?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good. I think that's the one that most people would flock to as well. They'd like to understand how much money has this email made for me today. I think I'm a big fan of conversion rate. As much as revenue is a very good indicator, for me, conversion rate just helps me understand also the success in terms of the amount of people that found my campaign relevant. And if I have a low conversion, although the revenue might be very sexy, if the conversion rate is actually particularly low or below average, then it then helps me suggest different types of strategies that I can implement to increase that. And perhaps I might have to create a automated campaign or, remove some people and treat them differently. So I always like to look at that special little percentage when looking at my campaigns. How about you, Skip? You're very quiet. What's going on in that noggin?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how to answer this and not sound like a politician.
Be a politician. It's fine.
So I've got a couple of answers. I don't have a favorite. All email metrics are my children, and I love all my children equally.
You are a politician.
Well, a lot of it has to do with what is your campaign trying to achieve? And I'll give you a really interesting example of that. I was working with a U.S. university on a campaign where we were trying to get alumni to give money.
Okay.
And you would think, get the most money you can. That kind of is what they want. And actually, the purpose of this campaign was to get the most people to give money. And it didn't matter how much they gave because there was a grant proposal that they had in, and they had to have a certain percentage of alumni giving.
Yes.
Right.
So in that case, conversion rate, that would be key.
Right.
I agree with Nancy. I think revenue is always key, always the most important one. Unfortunately, for a lot of businesses, revenue is too far away from the campaign for that to be useful, right? I always want to know how the campaign did. But if revenue is, if I'm at the beginning of a nurture program and revenue is 3, 4, 6 months away, I can't use that to adjust the campaign that I'm working on now. So, I think it's really important to really understand what your campaign goals are, what your campaign objectives are, how far you are away from revenue, and get as close to revenue as you can and be practical.
That's it.
The other one, the other interesting thing is, and this is going to be a little bit controversial, your metric doesn't have to be accurate.
Ooh,
it has to be consistent.
Okay.
So
I can get behind that.
I did a project for, I'm not allowed to say who, but a big tech company that everybody's heard of. Okay. And we created a calculation of how many dollars every campaign earned.
Right.
Everybody knew that the calculation was wrong. It wasn't anywhere near accurate as to how many dollars. And I wish they hadn't used dollars. I wish they'd used magic beans or something else. But they called it dollars, and but we all knew it didn't accurately capture the dollars earned by that campaign. But because they used the same formula every single time, we knew if it did better or worse, and from that we could adjust. So don't get super hung up on. I see too many clients trying to get down to the minutia and the precise. How much money did it make? When the 80-20 rule is probably good enough in most cases, where I know this number isn't 100% accurate, but it's the same way I've calculated it for the last 6 months, 6 years, whatever. So I can use it to compare what's gone on before.
Yeah.
We had an interesting experience when we changed ESPs that they didn't calculate the rates the same way.
Yes.
Oh, I hate that.
Crazy. And so I had a whole team of people that were trying to compare previous emails to current ones, and there just isn't anything. You can't do it.
No,
so it was
some
tough.
ESPs include the clicks and the open rates and all the rest of it, and
Kath, do you remember when we were on the email council here, the DMA email council, and we actually tried to come up with a global standard of metrics?
Yes.
And that fell apart when the ESPs got involved.
Yes.
Yes.
I know. And being an ESP from way back, I completely, and we never included, we were, I guess, purists. So we didn't include the click rate in the open rate. So people would, sort of go, they're coming from someone else, another ESP to us, and they're saying, your open rate's lower. You're not performing as well. It's like, no, because we're not including the click rate. But back to the question, I agree with you, Skip. And definitely, Nancy, revenue is absolutely key. But as Skip said, it's not always appropriate, or it's a bit more difficult. But for me, it's the success metric should always map back to your objective, which is basically what you were just saying then, Skip. But what I wanted to ask everyone, right, because Adiola mentioned conversion rate, which I adore, okay, because often that's the easy one to get, or easier. How do you calculate your conversion rate? Right, because there's so many marketers that I see that they're calculating the conversion rate same as you would do a website. So basically, it's just sessions or visits, right, divided by the number converted.
Orders, yeah.
Yeah, or the other way around. So rather than, should we actually be looking at the entire journey? So I absolutely essentially need that for when we're doing the testing, right? So if we're testing A versus B, and we want to find out which one is going to win, then we need to be doing it all the way through the journey, in which case we need to be doing it based upon number sent or something. I'm in two minds as to whether that's absolutely essential for regular, calculating and reporting and everything of your campaigns if it's not a test. What are your thoughts?
I think it goes back to what you were saying. The whatever your goal is in this is what you use to calculate your conversion. If your goal is to get as many people to contribute to your campaign, your university that you were talking about, then that is how you measure that conversion.
Yes, but do you just measure it from those people, the number of people who land on the website, and then basically what you're doing is you're measuring the conversion rate, then becomes how many people are converting who have landed on the web page, as opposed to
the base that was sent it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think that really depends on the other things that you're measuring. So, for example, in your example, Kath, if I want to look at the conversion rate of people that get the email versus people that arrive via search, for example, then I'm going to use the number of people that hit the website and split it up by channel, right? If I want to know the conversion rate of my email, well, then the question becomes, do I use everybody that received the email, or do I use everybody that opened the email? Because if you didn't open it, you can't convert.
Yeah.
Or, and then you've got a couple other, well, yeah, you can. But then you got a couple other challenges, and I've had this with clients. One client wouldn't count. It was a cinema chain or movie. I don't know what we call it. Going to the movies. What do you call it? A movie cinema? Movie? What do you call it in America?
Oh, theater. Do you guys call it theater?
Either one.
Theater. They call it the theater. Movie theater. Yeah. That's what it is. I've lived here too long. I've lived here way too long. 20 years, never lost the accent. Anyway, right. So they could count the conversion if they were promoting Beauty and the Beast and they sold a ticket to Beauty and the Beast off the email, they could count that towards their conversion rate. If they sold a ticket to Terminator off the email, they could not count it towards their conversion rate.
Okay.
So then you've got that. That's the other thing you're looking at is, did it convert? Did it convert with what you were promoting? Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So is it just driving traffic?
Yeah.
Or is it driving sales?
Yeah.
But it's a driving traffic, which then converts. So even though they go there, click on it, go to the website, go, oh, we don't really want this movie. Oh, but this one looks really good. The bottom line is that email was the vehicle that drove them there, and they wouldn't have got there otherwise.
But I guess for them, if they had to feed back, let's say their client is Beauty and the Beast, they would probably be reporting on the number of tickets sold per Solus campaign. So if someone has converted,
yeah, I see what you're saying. It didn't really work. It didn't really work that way. It was just an internal rule.
Just that's how we do it.
Yeah. The other interesting thing from that client, once we did get them to be allowed to start converting any sale off the back of their email, is that they did a weekly newsletter. And what they discovered was the button that converted the most was what's on at the cinema. And what it allowed them to do is stop paying so much attention to curating their weekly newsletter, because people weren't actually reading it. It was just a vehicle to drive traffic to the website and get people to buy stuff.
I really, really wish that brands tested that and tracked that and understood that, because that's so true for so many brands, you know. But one of my clients, I did a test recently, and it was really, really good. It was basically their they have one of those sites where you can upload your photos and you can personalize, you can make cushions, you can do, you know, mugs and all that sort of stuff, right? So what they were testing was, do we get them to buy the coupon first, and then we get them to actually, you know, they get the coupon and then they can go and create at their leisure? Or do we get them to create first, and then once they've created, they go and buy? So interestingly, and it's probably quite easy to understand how this worked, the one that won as far as volume goes, so number of conversions, was buy the coupon, because it's easy, right? Oh, okay, I'll buy that and everything. I can gift that, I can do this and all the rest of it. But the average order value was lower. I'm talking about 50% lower. Then the other stream, they got less, much, you know, 50% less conversions, but the average order value was much higher. So that ended up being, as far as revenue goes, they were pretty much the same.
But Kath, did they also look at the conversion on the coupon? Because if they converted, say, half the coupons, then the average order value was the same. You know, I buy the coupon, I give it to somebody, they never bother to use it.
Yes. Yeah. But it still is money.
Right.
It still is revenue.
Yeah. No, I know it's revenue, but actually it's higher margin revenue because it's revenue with no cost.
Yes.
Whereas the other is revenue with cost, so it's lower margin.
Yeah.
Very true.
This is why it's so key to really understand, then, you know, drill into your specifics. Even, is it actually revenue? Is it number of people? Is it actually average order value? Is it, you know, so, and then that gives you more hypotheses as well to be then testing further on. So it's, you know, it's not always that simple, is it? Just to say, oh, that's it. That's the way it is.
Well, I think this has been a very juicy question. I think there's lots of different angles and metrics that stimulates everyone's objectives. Now, moving on to stimulus, the next question is, how has COVID affected email? Now, I feel like this is quite a general one because there are several ways in which the pandemic that we're in at the moment, or the new situation, our new normal that we're in at the moment, has had an effect on businesses, whether they're bricks and mortar or pure play e-commerce. There has been some form of a wave. But you guys might have your own opinions on whether that has been good or bad. So who wants to start that off?
Well,
my
clients and then all the reports that I've been reading, keep in mind though, I have got a lot of retailers as clients, and the metrics are strong, like opens, clicks, conversions, all the rest of it. They've been doing really, really well. Of course, they're the ones that actually are able to ship and get into their warehouses and all the rest of it. So what I've seen is it's you know, some brands are doing really, really well, for sure.
Do you feel like it's made email even more of a bigger star. You know, within most marketing, you know, let's say matrix in each company, email is seen as the low cost, high yield channel. If there's something that needs to be pushed, it's like, yeah, get it on email. Tell the email team to just get that out without really understanding the relationship that we may have with, you know, our customers and how we segment and, you know, the different revenue streams that we may acquire through different, you know, channels and so forth within email. Do you feel like now it's been seen as, you know, the golden child, not necessarily just because it's instant, but more in the sense of it potentially could be a savior? Is that like a very grand term to use?
I hate to sound cynical, but
but you're gonna.
Yeah, I'm gonna a little bit. I think it'll emerge as a star. I don't think it's seen as a star right now. I think.
Really?
I mean, so I, you know, a lot of the clients that I work with, we're having a field day right now in search because nobody's paying for search, which means all the bid prices on all of the key terms that we've had been able to afford previously are now less than 50% of what they were before the pandemic.
Right.
So I think what a lot of brands did, what that tells me is a lot of brands took money out of search and didn't take money out of email. Now, I don't know if they took the money they took out of search and put it into email.
Yeah.
I don't have any data to back that up. But I think the other thing is, and I'd love to see some data on this, and I'm sure somebody like Email on Acid or Litmus will have this data, but I'll bet you more emails are being read.
Yes.
And I mean,
have set
read all the way through.
I can see that on e-data source. The read rates of my clients' emails are much, much higher, for sure. And in general as well. So, yeah, I don't know. I think, you know, I'm always, Skip and I have been on we're on the DMA, working on the council for 10 years or so with this whole thing in mind, is to, you know, take email from being that underrated, under-budgeted, under-resourced, under-respected, you know, channel into being something more valued. And over time it is happening. And I do think that this is one key period that's going to really help with email. But I think, you know, what Skip is probably also referring to is there still is, and this is where I find the biggest problem. The biggest problem, I think, is convincing the C-suite that email can deliver even more. And this occasion, which they didn't create or they didn't have to invest, is actually giving them that opportunity to show that it's actually delivering more, you know, and because it's the highest, it delivers the highest return on investment.
Yeah,
just as is. And so therefore they're kind of going, oh, you know. So I think we kind of struggle with their innate biases against email. Right. Email is still seen as being, yes, it's the workhorse, yes, it's this and everything like that. They'll all agree on that, but it's really not sexy, and so they're just not.
Well, I've just had a live question come through, so guys, get ready, please. I want you all to answer. As lockdown has eased, have you guys seen a drop in open and read rates at all?
Lockdown hasn't eased in the UK.
Yeah, it hasn't for us either.
I mean, it is kind of easing. We're allowed to go out and eat, Skip. I know, like,
have you?
Yeah. I
okay.
Thank you.
I mean, if you think about it.
But it was a different scenario. 50% less people and 50% less staff.
But still, everybody, not everybody, pretty much everybody I know, and I know you have to be careful not to market to yourself, because, you know, we live inside the M25. We are not typical consumers, but most people are still working from home.
Yeah,
people aren't going out as much.
Yeah,
you know, going. I went to the pub down the street from my house that started doing takeaway pizza. I walked to the pub, got a pizza, came home. That was a night out. That's all I did. Right. So people aren't going out as much. People are working from home. what I've seen, if you look at like the Google Analytics on your website, the traffic patterns have completely changed. It used to be on especially on B2C sites, but also some B2B sites, you get a nice little spike in traffic about between 8 and 9 o'clock at night. People had finished dinner, sat down, flipped on the telly, opened up their second screen, and were kind of doing two things at once.
Yeah.
We're not seeing that. We're not seeing web traffic in the evening. People are spending all day staring at a screen, just like all of our viewers are today. And when they get done with the day, screen goes down. And then they're not, I don't think people are multi-screening as much.
Right.
So,
But certainly not multi-screening with things like work-related stuff.
Right.
There's still, social media or whatever other fun things they might want to do, or streaming services. But yeah, they're not, we're seeing the exact same thing.
Okay. So then does that then mean that the engagement rates are still pretty much as they are at an optimum? It's quite interesting.
Yeah. One thing I was going to mention with regard to the COVID, we didn't necessarily have a change in our metrics as much, and we're B2B essentially, as we did a change in strategy, because we felt like at the time that everything was first coming out, every company and their uncle was releasing a statement about COVID-19, and it was really clogging inboxes. I mean, we got a lot of people that were very burnt out about inboxes, so it did kind of slow back our regular commercial emails. We kept up with transactional, we kept up with our regular cadence type stuff, but back on the commercial for just about 4 weeks, just to let things sort of settle down. Did not see a negative impact from it, so we felt like that was probably the right thing to do for us.
And just like one last thing, I guess, on Skip's point. So search seeing quite a boom at the moment with very minimal effort. Do you not feel as though email is also, picking up from that excess in traffic? If people are putting in the right implementations, the right strategies to capture that excess traffic that's going to the website, in turn, email will pick that up and have to push out, those next on communications to nurture those people, to, especially if they're new to your brand, you're going to ensure that you have a program in place to kind of guide them through, your company or your brand profile to get them to convert. So in that sense, I'm going to champion email. In that sense, don't you feel as though email is going to be seen as the, I think
it will be the star. I just don't think it's the star right now. To Nancy's point, I think everybody saw that. I didn't need to be told that you were taking care of your staff because of COVID. That was kind of my understanding. If you weren't doing that, and you didn't have to tell me that your supply lines or your supply chain was impacted by COVID, because I can watch the news. So those emails were the first one was like, oh, that's kind of nice, but the 57th one was crap, and the 500th one was just dire.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
But the other thing, I saw a really interesting stat, and this is one of the ones I didn't put in my notes, so I'm probably going to misquote it, but it was something like 62% of UK consumers said they had tried a new brand over lockdown. Now, what that means is you've got a lot of new customers who are new since lockdown.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes, very much this is where email comes to the fore, because it's a brand new customer. They don't know anything about you.
Exactly.
You don't know why they tried your brand. They might have tried your brand because they couldn't get, they tried your shave cream because they couldn't get the shave cream they normally got, or your toilet paper because they couldn't get the toilet paper they usually got. Whatever it was.
Yeah.
I'm hoping people aren't buying toilet paper on e-com though. So these are new people. You don't know why they came to you. You were a suitable alternative potentially to what they would normally buy. And so now you've got to work really hard to nurture them and keep them so they're not, one-trick pony.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's email's job, and that's where lifecycle marketing comes in and all the rest of it. Absolutely. Hey, Adiola, there's a totally awesome.
Yeah, just seen it.
Not that one, not the one that's just come through.
Oh.
The second one. How long should we be tracking for? Can we go and ask?
For revenue, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it depends on your product. You know, if it's a long sale product, it could be a while. The products that we're working on right now they have 3 to 6 month purchase cycles. So I would be tracking all the.
Oh,
Nancy's
Nancy.
okay.
But I agree with what she said.
Yes, me too.
So
Absolutely.
it depends on your product cycle in terms of the lead time to buy.
Well, here's it. Sorry, Kath, go ahead.
Email is the nudge one, and as we were talking about it, you know, they might go there for a particular product, but they don't like that, but they buy something else. Email nudges you through, and actually helps you to make those purchases. I did a research project, an audit for my client, and I found out my client was literally they were sending out emails every 4 days, right?
Okay.
How long did they measure their email for?
4 days?
4 days, yes, because it was practical and it fit in with them. And so I just went, okay, well, let's go to Google Analytics. Let's actually have a look. And I found out their emails had an incredibly long tail. And so 6 weeks later, they're still gaining revenue. They're still getting very, very high intent conversions, right? Very few people are actually clicking through, but the conversion rate was incredibly high. And so they were actually under reporting at least by you know, the 50% mark, so, or 100%. Yeah. Nancy, you got cut off.
I did, and we had power fluctuate, so I'm back on my hotspot to do this. Yeah. I think I'm in agreement with what you were saying, is that it really depends.
No.
Oh dear.
That hotspot.
That's Murphy's Law right there.
Oh dear.
It's like you're in Nigeria, where we have the electricity cut out quite a lot.
Oh dear.
Okay, you back? She's back.
I'm back?
Yeah. Back.
Okay. So basically what I was saying was that it depends on the life cycle of your product as to how long you should be tracking the revenue from a particular email. It could be a 3-month cycle, like what the product we have now that we're pushing out, or it could be as long as a couple of years. So it really just depends on the product, which I think is basically what Kath was saying.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that is to just always look at your Google Analytics to see the tail off, because I know with some retailers that I've worked with in the past, a campaign that would go out, let's say today, may generate revenue through from the evening all the way through into the next day, but you'll check back a week later, 7 days later, 10 days later, and it's still making money. So some brands have put in a 30-day look back window, so it takes in account the entire month. And attributes any revenue back to that single campaign, so that they can see, how well it's doing post send. So yeah, I definitely think it's based on your product's life cycle, and as well as just having GA to help you pinpoint when the actual great, time is to really sum up everything that campaign has done.
Can I disagree with everybody?
Of course.
That's a great example of why attribution modeling is broken.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
That's not how people behave.
Yeah.
People don't. Okay, I shouldn't generalize, but most likely, what's happened is I open an email, I get interested in a product. Now, B2B, it's a different beast. This is more of a B2C kind of thing, definitely an e-commerce kind of thing. And I get interested in the product, and I may buy it straight away, or I may not need it straight away. Now, I don't know about you all, but my inbox is not organized enough for me to find the email I got 6 months ago specifically to get to a product.
No.
The offer is probably not there. So that just happens to be the email I clicked on.
Yep, true.
Yeah.
To go and buy something.
Yes, but generally that would be right, and this again would be amazing if we could actually get, do a consumer survey on it. But the DMA does the consumer tracking report, which is really good, but it doesn't ask a specific question. Is it because they really liked that one, they saved it, they've deleted all the other ones consequently, then they've got a need and they go, oh, I want that. So they do a search. That's the email that comes up, and then they click on it. All right. What we're now talking about is how we as individuals, as humans, are all different, and we all manage our inboxes differently. And for us as marketers to say, this is how you're going to have to organize and use your inbox, and because this is how we're, working with it, tracking it, attributing it, and all the rest of it, we can't do that. So we have to work with the myriad of ways that they actually do it, and they will do obscure things. And so therefore, just to put that 30-day look back, sort of, check, okay, let's go. It makes sense. But
except I don't care how a specific email did. It doesn't matter to me, right? Because it's not like a TV campaign or a direct marketing campaign that you're putting in, direct marketing campaign, you're putting in $100,000, a TV campaign, you're putting in 5 million, pick whatever currency you use, right? That I got to know if it paid itself back. For email, the cost of a specific campaign, whether that campaign was successful from a revenue perspective or not, it's interesting to know. It's good to know. Is it going to change my behavior? No. As a CMO, I want to know, where should I be putting my marketing spend? And knowing the revenue off of one email campaign does not tell me to put more marketing spend in email.
Yeah, but it's a collective revenue number, so it's not.
I want to know
over time, so you would understand the percentage of revenue that channel has contributed to the wider business.
Because
so email matters.
Okay, hang on.
What we found was that, so they were only altogether showing that email made X, whereas in fact it made Y, which was double X.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Kath, that you should look at it longer, but I'm also saying I don't care if email A made X amount of money. I want to know, how much did the email channel make over my business cycle.
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
No, you're not.
But
you're
yeah,
not.
overrule.
Because I don't need the problem is
basis, right? Then you're not giving the full picture, which therefore means that there's someone else, some other channel is going to be receiving that attribution of that money that email has earned, but you've just wrongly attributed and reported on it.
No,
so
I count both.
It's not a campaign basis. It's an overall.
But it's also, but also, I want to know how much revenue was generated from people that interacted with email only, and social only, and email and social. And then if I've got search, I'm going to have email and search only, search and social only, social and email only. Right. So the way to do it accurately, the problem is if you're in a situation, and I've been in this situation, you go into the boardroom and the CFO says, guys, we've got 100,000 pounds that we didn't know we were going to have that we want to spend this year. And he looks at me and he looks at the CTO. The CTO, she is already going to have a spreadsheet, right? She's got a spreadsheet already open on her laptop, and she's going to be able to plug in 100 grand. She's going to know exactly what she's going to buy from that. And she's going to be able to come up and say, if I spend that 100 grand, we're going to save this here and this here and this here, and your ROI is going to be X. And then they look at me and they're like, where are you going to put the money? And I can tell them that. And then they're going to say, what's the ROI? And current attribution modeling can't tell you that. There isn't an attribution model around that can tell you that. But if you do a cohort analysis for your attribution, you can not only calculate what the ROI is going to be, but if the other situation happens and you go into the boardroom and the CFO in this case says, "Hey, Skip, got a problem. We got to up the sales target. Here's the new number. How are you going to hit it? I can predict how I'm going to hit it. I can tell you how many new leads do I need, how many people do I have to put in the top of the funnel, and I can work it out what source they're going to come from, all the way through." So I think the problem that a lot of marketers get stuck on is, how much money did this campaign make? Because sitting down and calculating how much money that campaign made is really, really difficult and fraught with the possibility that there was some, because then you get into, you got like first click attribution or last click attribution, and those are rubbish. So then they're like, okay, well, let's do some journey planning, and then you've got, maybe you've got something simple, which is like first click, middle click, last click, or then you get something really complicated where we're going to look at every touch point and give a weighting to every touch point all along the journey. And that's brilliant. And it's, again, goes back to what I was saying earlier. That's amazingly accurate if you get it right. Very hard to implement, very expensive to implement, almost impossible to use on a day-to-day basis. You can't hand that information to your campaign manager and say, okay, now here's some extra cash. How are we going to spend it? It doesn't answer that question.
Yeah. I completely and totally agree. Attribution is broken, and email is the one of, not the only channel, but one of the channels that is hard done by.
Absolutely.
We are under recognized as far as, or under attributed, because we are that push channel.
Yeah.
And so, we just miss out. And because we're that retention channel as well. So we're not that sexy sort of, acquisition one or anything like this. So
it's because we do all the hard work. Other channels get the glory because they either get the lead in, or they convert the lead,
or they convert it. We're in the middle,
and emails in between those two things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then they've converted, and then we do all the retention work.
Yep.
And then a salesperson or an account manager signs that, so they get retention. They get the credit for the retention.
Yeah, we lose out on first click and we lose out on last click, and they're the two most common ways of measuring attribution.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that the thing that, again, everybody listening to this call is not a typical marketer. I mean, they're a typical marketer. They're not a typical consumer. But I still believe a vast majority of consumers think that Google is the internet, right? When they say, I'm going to go online and shop for something, they go to Google and they type it. The people that go to Google and type in Amazon to get to Amazon, right? I mean, it happens all the time.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the DMA, consumer tracker report shows that. I mean, it's improved a little bit, but I always call upon this one particular year. It was only a couple of years ago that this particular report from the DMA in the UK showed that the highest action, this is after querying and asking the consumers in the survey, what is the action that you will take when you receive an email that you like? Guess what? It wasn't click-through. Click-through was actually the third one. And then the fourth one was go to search for it. The other ones were save the email for later or bear the information in mind for later. Another one was just go directly to the shop and don't open up the email. So emails, driving traffic in all different forms, driving to search, driving to shop, driving to sit there in the email inbox till we've stopped tracking it, and then they go and convert.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay. We have like 15 minutes left, so yeah. We got 2 minutes.
No, we've only answered 2 questions.
Oh,
only answered 2 questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
We've had some questions come in. They're very extensive. Okay, we'll do this one. So, hey, Lisa, Lisa was on our panel the last time, Black Women in Email. Very good session. She actually has an interesting question. With everyone being more inside due to the pandemic, does this expand marketing via email to various days of the week, including sending email marketing messages over the weekend, i.e. Saturday and Sunday, i.e. that is the weekend, at various hours to increase or decrease conversions?
It's not the weekend in every country.
Oh, well, actually, you're right, because in Dubai, it's Friday, Saturday.
Exactly.
Or UAE. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Skip.
Saved you there. Saved you.
Poor blimey. So yes, I mean, it's a big question to unpack, but essentially, with everything that's going on, do we find ourselves spreading email out? So if we were constrained to, let's say, we had our specific send days, send times, hours, whatever. Do you feel like this we have all of these people now sitting at home, sitting ducks? Is the strategy changing because we no longer have to be as targeted, or do we still have to be as targeted?
Yeah.
I think picking up on what Nancy said earlier, I think she hit the nail on the head. So historically, I would have said, figure out when the best time to send is for you, and use that. But I think behaviors have changed. So I think there maybe is less of a window for business email. I know a couple of companies clients I've had historically in the past, B2B companies, and the B2B company I'm working with at the moment, emails on a Sunday afternoon tend to work really well.
Yeah.
But I think business people are maybe doing less business in their downtime. I was going to say their home time, but that's all home time now.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
it is interesting. I'd love to see some stats on the usage of internet during this period, because as we normally have email and more at 4:30 p.m. BST, right? But this particular session, which was the one that Adiola just talked about, that actually had Lisa as well, we had it an hour later at 5:30, and now our internet was really, really bad. The difference between 4:30 and 5:30 here in the UK was chalk and cheese. It's like everyone said, okay, because in England we tend to stop work at 5:30. I think they were at 5:30 exactly, and instead of commuting for an hour, they went on the internet, Facebooking and checking their emails and buying and all this sort of stuff, because it was absolutely crazy. It's literally different, isn't it? Between
It was
5:30, forever known as Netflix hour.
It was mental. But I feel like I'm the person that is constantly on the internet all day, and I know it's so bad to generalize, but I assume that everybody is online all day, because you have to connect to your emails via a web server per se, if you're using your home laptop. So you're having to use that connection. I read an article that Virgin Media had to increase the bandwidth across the UK to handle the capacity of people that are now online, and it's not just during specific hours of the day, it's all day. So I do feel as though people are just constantly online. Using...
Audience of one, but I shut things off at 5 o'clock.
Do you?
Yeah, and I will read a book. I will maybe play a game. Watching movies might be the only thing that we do that relates to the internet, and that's streaming. So I get tired of being here at my desk or with these screens. There's up here. I get tired of being here, and I shut it off at 5 or 5:30.
Yeah, I continue. I keep going. I buy clothes. I watch videos.
I think the thing you have to remember, though, Adiola, is that whilst we're all connected to the internet all day, you don't do much on the internet in a B2B sense, in a business setting, unless you're on a video call.
True.
Right? If you're working on a document, your machine's connected to the internet, but you're not drawing much off of it.
Yeah. You're not.
But at 5:30, when everybody stops, because the other thing that happens at 5:30, depending on what day you did it, is that's when all of our company happy hours happen, right? So you'll have team happy hours during the week, and then there's Kath and I host a happy hour on Friday afternoons, and so that's the other thing is suddenly everybody is doing video calls because they're connecting. It's still business; they're still working, but they're doing it, in a much more social way.
Very true. Very true. Kath, did you?
No. I'm excited because I can see this new question.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
She always gets
Kath is cheating.
Yeah, she's really goody.
I told you how to cheat. I told you where it was.
That's true.
She gets super goody. Okay, so the new question that came in. So, thoughts on non-email metrics for email marketing. For example, what is the experience on your website after someone clicks through from the email? What is the site abandonment rate versus coming from search, push, etc.? So it's a heavy question. What is their site dwell time or conversion rate or journeys like? In essence, measuring how email sets up visitors to achieve your goal versus other channels. It could be the content, and it drives a lot of clicks, but it fails to set expectations correctly and converts poorly. So I'm sure you've all seen this question, so you can unpack it in whichever way you feel is relevant to the asker. So, somebody.
I love this question.
Oh,
yeah,
I do, because I work really hard on making sure that landing pages and all of the content downstream from the initial point is in sync with that. That's like is to make sure that stuff is optimized for the best possible experience. And you have to look at that. If you have the ability to make changes to that, if a lot of us are siloed in, you have to do email, or you have to do search, or you have to do this. If you have the ability to look at it, pardon me, Kath, holistically, then you can really make changes and affect that end experience. I think this is a great question. I love it.
Absolutely. And this is what we do. It's a holistic approach. Because the holistic approach is my definition when I created it 10, 15 years ago, however long. It's basing it on the customer journey. So it's not necessarily, looking at the channel. It's looking at the customer journey. And of course, the landing page, which is, email, as I've said, umpteen dozen times, it drives them to it. So it's absolutely crucial. And that's what, when Adiola and I do our audits of our customers' journeys, we look at the email. Of course, we look at the email. We look at the programs. We look at all of that. We look at how they actually got the acquisition source. We look at, so we'll look at the PPC ads and everything. We also look at the landing pages, the product pages. We look at the checkout journey. We look at everything to look at barriers. We look at all of the drop-off points. We look at the bounce rates, everything like that, because that all tells you the story. And yes, you can end up having, and this is why Skip and I have worked so hard to actually argue against using open rate as being the wonderful metric that everyone thinks it is, because it only tells you a tiny little bit of the story. We all know how you can configure the subject line to actually give you an incredibly high open rate, but a really, really poor conversion rate. And so that's why, you need to look at everything and then identify, wait on, there's a barrier here, or there's, let's go and look at it. So, let's get
just my only addition to that is don't start looking at things like that from once they've gotten in your nurture journey, right? Marketing starts, the customer experience starts before they found your brand in the first instance. And once they found your brand in the first instance, it continues on from that. So Kath, you touched on it briefly, but start looking at acquisition channels. Which acquisition channels drive conversion? Which acquisition channels drive repeat conversion? If you're looking at a customer or a group of customers that are your highest performing customers, where did they come from? Where did you get them? Go back to that source and get some more. So it's not just a matter of doing it once the marketing starts. You got to be doing it sort of before the marketing starts as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and you can use things like branded keywords to kind of give you a feel for where people are finding you. You know, there's driving in from other channels using the non-branded keywords. Which one of those is actually driving revenue for you? And then build from there. I mean, there's lots of data out there, and I think it's really hard sometimes to get your arms around the whole thing, but it's absolutely where we have to be.
Yeah.
Good point.
We've got a few minutes. We've got another way of doing it so that we identify, you can't identify what keywords are being used, right? You used to be able to, but you can't anymore. But what you can do is you can set it up on your landing pages or your product pages. You've got your keywords for that. And what you're doing is you're actually identifying the intent. So maybe it's low intent and it's a very generic search term. And that's going to drive to this page. Then there's a medium intent. They've done a little bit of search, so it's kind of like mid-funnel, right? Top of funnel, mid-funnel, bottom funnel. And they've got a little bit more specific search terms. And so you take them to this page. And then you've got the bottom funnel. Now, for each one of those, you're going to be having an actual journey that's nurturing them. So top of funnel, you're going to nurture them all the way through.
Yeah.
Bottom funnel, they're almost there. So you don't want to be nurturing them all the way through. Why would you take them up to the top when they've already gone and done their own nurturing? So you just take them down to the bottom bit and nurturing them that way. And also then you get to find out, because they're actually turning up those landing pages which have got those specific keywords, you're finding out more about the search and the type of terms and all the rest of it. So you're finding out more about your audience.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
Yeah, I saw a great stat that 52% of B2B purchasing decisions have been made, or the people are 52% of the way down the journey before they get to your website for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh.
So starting top of funnel, they've done that. You're boring them.
Yeah.
You're not adding value.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so then how does someone add value? Let's give someone a key tip, because that was one of the questions. We've got 3 minutes. So what tip would you like to share in terms of how can they add value? See my eyebrow raised there, because I know it's there.
I'm sorry, it's going to sound cliche.
I'm going to say it's relative, right, Skip?
No, I'm going to say it's going to sound cliche, but it's be relevant. You're at the end of the day, we're having a one-to-one conversation. We're just doing it at scale. So if the person was standing right in front of you, what would be the thing that you'd say next? That's how you deliver value.
So then does that mean you're looking at the point in time in which you acquire them in terms of their behavior? Because then that would determine the type of conversation you have with them on email. Because you guys were mentioning don't start at the top. They've already done that. They've already done the nurturing. So are they looking at their behavior and then targeting that relevance to what they're doing at that current time?
Yeah, exactly.
Devil's advocate and add more.
No, you are. I mean, you're right. The way you add relevance is understanding. Well, it's two things: understanding where they are. What nobody comes to your website because it's fun. Nobody surfs the internet anymore. Nobody's website is that good. Sorry to upset people, but they're not. They're there to solve a problem. What problem are they trying to solve? And how much do they know about the problem already? And then how do you then tell them what they need to know to solve their problem?
Yeah.
It's a silly example, but my car won't start. Okay. My car won't start could be caused by a lot of things. So let's start. What's the next question? Well, do the lights work? The lights work. The car won't start. It's not a battery. Right. And so they haven't done any research. If they come to you and they say the car won't start because my son filled the petrol tank with sand, asking if the lights turn on is not helpful.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It's okay. This is how you drain the tank. This is how you take the tank off without blowing yourself up. That kind of thing.
Relevance. Okay. I love it. Okay. So I think we're at the
end. Stupid example.
Oh, I like it. It's great. I like all these analogies. It's fantastic. Right. So I guess we're going to have to wrap up because we're at the end. The hour has no.
Yeah, we are. It's fine.
Because Kath is like, no. The hour is just flown by so quickly. And that's all we have time for today. And I do want to thank everyone for attending this event live. And hi to all of those who are watching it in the future. Hey, thank you for your time. And I really hope you found this event to be insightful and beneficial. And of course, I want to give a big, big thank you to our amazing speakers for sharing their experiences and expertise with us. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Please, would really love it if you could leave us some feedback. We want to know how we're doing. So that we can improve and keep on bringing you quality online events like this one today. So thank you and goodbye, and enjoy your evening. Surf the internet, buy some clothes, do your online grocery shopping.
Go back to work.
Go back to work. Yeah. Ooh, boo. Anyway, have a nice evening, everybody, or a day, depending on where you are. And thank you for joining us. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.